Welcome back to This Day. Joining me now is Guy West, the Projects Division Managers with VMS. And it's so nice to meet you and have you here on the show. Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you as well.
Well, thanks. So it seems like there's always something that, needs repair or remodeling around here. And you guys have actually achieved quite a bit in this past year, some big projects. So first off, the Aliso Creek Trail paving, this is one of the projects that was completed. Tell me about this. Where was this at exactly? Like, what do people use this trail for?
So it's a great amenity for the community. It's like a nature walk because on one side of the trail is the creek, and in the creek you can see wildlife like turtles, fish. And the times that I was out there to do inspections, I thought it was a great amenity for this community. And so, as you can see on the screen, there's some wear over time. It's frequently used. It's used every day. You can go out there right now and you'll see people walking on the trail. And so, as a part of this project, we wanted to make sure that it's safe. Safety is always a concern. So we did what we call an overlay, where we take asphalt paving and we go over the existing asphalt paving. It's about a 2-inch lift. It gives it a nice smooth surface. And so now the residents can walk on that trail and feel safe, and it's smooth, and it just makes it nicer.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. It definitely looks nice. And so do people ride bicycles too as well, or other wheeled things, or is it mostly just walkers?
My experience has just been walkers. So if there are bikers on that trail, I'm unaware.
Okay. And so this would, how long was this closed when they repaved this area?
It was a day, one day.
A day, yeah.
We closed it down for a day. We offered some other access points. A lot of people access this from Avenida Sevilla. They park on the street there and they access the trail at that point. This particular trail happens to go down to the bridge, and that's where, not the trail ends, but this section of paving that we worked on was about 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
So.
And now is there any other areas near here that are going to need remodeling as well, or is that completes this area?
No, for this area, that will complete that area. We've taken care of the issues that they were all addressed in this project.
Wonderful. And next, I know this one was really important to the community, the golf driving range.
Yeah, this one gets a lot of use. It's a 10-acre site, so people out there practicing their swing. They do bring some pros over, and there's a training area where they can train and get some advice on their swing. Just looking at the picture that's up there, it was in pretty bad shape. There was a lot of erosion. If there was a rain event, it would turn to mud. They would have to shut the facility down until it could dry out because it wasn't safe for staff to get out there and work on it. So,
wow.
It had to be rehabilitated, and that was really what the focus was to make sure that we can plant turf and that it would grow and root. And of course, there's the final product, and so now it's safe for the workers that are out there picking up the balls and doing the maintenance, and it's a much more pleasant experience for the user.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. And this was a project that it was closed in March, so it was closed for several months, but it was something that was in the process for a long time to get this project completed. Were there challenges with this one?
Yeah, during the planning stages, I think there were a lot of different ideas that were thrown into the mix, and all of that had to be vetted, and the project had to get approval from the board. And once the board determined how they wanted to move forward, they turned it over to staff. We retained a contractor, a landscape contractor with experience in this type of turf, and they spent a lot of time amending the soil because it had been left to erode for so long. All the minerals and the things that would help the grass to grow needed to be put back into the soil.
Okay.
So there were analysis done on the soil, testing done to determine what amendments needed to be added. And so that was done. The grass was planted. We had some difficulty along the way. The topography, there's a lot of slope, so it's hard to grow grass on slope. I don't know if anyone's had that experience. But so, you know, we worked through all that. The contractor came through. They planted some sod in the areas that were having difficulties, and it worked out fine, and we were able to open. We did predict a November opening, and that's when we were able to open.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think, who knew how difficult that all that would be, to all these things you don't realize that it takes. And so when you had the first bids and you had things in there and maybe you took some things out of the bids, is there anything now that it's completed that you go, oh man, wish we had added kept that certain other thing in the bid? Or are you perfectly happy with?
No, the results, this outcome is what we were looking for. We were looking for an even turf throughout. You know, there was thoughts of maybe leveling it off because it is on a slope, but the expense just didn't make sense. And I agree with that. You know, it would have been more money than, you know, it would be worth. I think the playing experience, or the experience that the users have, is a good one now. Their balls will now end up where they should end up because the grass slows that roll down.
Yeah.
And before, it was like concrete. They would all just roll to one side. So I think the experience is much better.
Yeah, I'm sure the residents are just thrilled with how it's turned out. It is definitely beautiful. So your next project, Shepherd's Crook installation. And so when I first heard this name, I wasn't familiar with this area. I'm like, this sounds like a recipe.
Could be.
So tell me about this area. Where is this? What was done with this area?
So a lot of this community, where there are block walls, they installed barbed wire. It's a security type fencing that goes on. You see it in a lot of places. Unfortunately, this community was built when it was still county, and then they incorporated the city of Laguna Woods at some point. The city of Laguna Woods does not allow barbed wire to be installed on top of these block walls. So we had to come up with a new system when replacing the barbed wire. And so we worked with the city, and the board finally approved the Shepherd's Crook as a replacement for the barbed wire. I'm happy to say that, you know, GRF is fully completed. This year was the last section of barbed wire that was being replaced with Shepherd's Crook. That was all done around Gate 3 area. It was, we started, I believe, in 2020 on this project for GRF. And again, it was completed about 1,900 linear feet of Shepherd's Crook was installed.
Oh, wow. Wow. So yeah, so that's taken a few years then to get that all done.
Yeah.
That was a big job. And so, okay, and then your next area is the Equestrian Center, hay barn, siding, and store doll painting. So, you know, tell me what was wrong, what was going on with that area?
Okay, so with the Equestrian Center, they have 48 stalls in a barn there to house the horses. As you can see in the slide here, they do a lot of, there's a lot of abuse that happens to these doors and the trim around the doors. The horses, they like to chew. What can I say? And so, you know, it was looking pretty bad. There was some damage that was done. And so we went in and we repaired the wood. We painted the doors. And then we added this rubber padding to the interior, the lower panel. It seemed to take a lot of abuse. So this is going to help out in the future.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Deter the horses from any kicking or chewing.
Well, if they do kick it, the padding takes the brunt.
Right, right. Yeah, hopefully that'll help. So, oh, and then I assume no horses were harmed in
No, this was, so we had to phase this, and we were doing sections at a time, and the horses would be removed as we performed the work. And then they would be brought back in the evening, and we used a very low, well, the paint that was used was safer for animals. We made sure that we found a paint that would be safer for the animals.
Good. Oh, that's
it's
wonderful.
It's a VOC low rating.
Yes, yeah. Oh, I love to hear that. That's great. And then lastly, the clubhouse parking lot and street paving. This, we all know, what a pain it is to, as a resident to have to deal with that, but it's so nice once it's finally finished.
It is. So every year we do a rating on the streets throughout the community and in all of the mutuals, but in particular GRF this year received paving on 216,000 square feet of paving, and it's the same thing. It was an overlay type painting or paving, but what we do in this case is we grind down the top layer of the surface, and then they add 2-inch layer on top of that, and it's smoothed out. And this is the process you can see on these slides. There's a lot of work that goes into the streets, and the streets are well maintained throughout the community. It's one of your largest assets. In GRF alone, you have 38 miles of road that's paved.
Wow.
That is maintained by staff. So it's a big undertaking. It is a lot of work, but I think overall the streets in this community are better than in most communities that you find.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so nice when you're driving through not to be hitting potholes and bumping all around.
and if there is a pothole, it's addressed immediately by our staff, the VMS staff. They also have a crew that will go out and take care of the small potholes if they develop.
Okay.
And so they're on it right away. They do keep the streets maintained very well.
That's great. And so you said there was 38 miles of streets in here?
Yeah.
So it must go in stages.
For GRF.
For GRF.
38 miles
okay.
for GRF.
Wow, that's crazy. So
yeah.
Is it like it takes 3 years to get all that done and then every 10 years needs to be redone? Or how does the timing on all that happen?
So typically your asphalt in Southern California is about 20 to 30 year life cycle. But the community, the boards here, they do a good job because we have a proactive maintenance program as well. So that extends the life. So we're looking at a good 30 years before we have to do this type of work, which you see on the screen. They do a lot of seal coat, and that seal coat puts the moisture, or not the moisture, but oils back into the asphalt and keeps it from cracking. And when that happens, if a crack happens and it goes down to the subsurface, then you can have problems and it costs more money to repair. So they do an excellent job with their roads here.
Yeah, maintenance is always best. Prevention, right?
Yes, prevention.
What are any other current projects that you have getting ready to start up, or any plans for next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably for GRF, I believe we have 27 projects lined up for 2024. We are in the middle of some of the projects that we started in 2023, but we haven't completed yet. Right now we're working on the broadband, replacing the HVAC, because that's where the servers are stored, and it's important to maintain that climate in there. And the system that's in there now is pretty old, and they've had many calls to come out and do repairs. So it was time to replace it. Yeah.
And this is where?
It's at the broadband, and that's
okay.
over at the service center where staff has all their operations. So that's just one. We're in the middle of replacing those units. We have we're also replacing, or we're adding gates at the equestrian center for security purposes. They had complaints where people would just walk in from the street and they had access to the horses.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah, that's
not
not
a
good.
safe environment. So we're putting up security fencing and gates. And now only those who need to have access will have access.
Perfect. Nice. And any other things that you wanted to tell us about, or any other plans?
No, we're just, we're excited about the projects that are coming our way. We're also in the process of Clubhouse 1. We're doing a beautification. We're updating a lot of the spaces there. So that's still in the planning stages. We need to get our drawings, our engineering done. We need to get permits. And so that's slated to start the first quarter of next year.
And so will that hopefully be completed during next year?
So if the plan moves forward the way it's looking, we're looking at a 24-week construction for that facility if they do it in a single phase.
Okay.
I'm not sure that a conclusion has been made as far as how they're going to phase that project, but right now it's looking like a single phase at 24 weeks.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for being here and updating us with all this information.
Oh, I'm happy to. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Stay with us. We have this weekend's movie previews and announcements coming up right after this.